right, let's dive right in today. We're going deep into something that I think a lot of you will find pretty interesting. We're going to be looking at everyday English.
Ooh, fun.
We're talking idioms, phrasal verbs, slang, all that good stuff that really...
Stuff that makes you sound.
Yeah, like you actually know what you're doing.
Exactly.
So to help us out, we've got this great conversation between two university students, Jack and Emma, to kind of guide our deep dive today.
I love the source material. It's so relatable.
Yeah, it really is. It's just like sitting at a table next to them at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Just eavesdropping on their conversation.
Perfect.
And one of the things that Jack brings up right at the beginning is how native English speakers use idioms all the time.
It's true.
And if you don't know what they mean, it can sound like a completely different language.
Oh, absolutely. Like a secret code.
Right. So we're going to crack that code today. We're going to break down 10 of the most common idioms that Jack and Emma use in their conversation.
Sounds good. Let's start puzzling.
Okay, so the first one that comes up is the ball is in your court.
Okay.
I got to ask, is this actually about sports?
Well, it uses the imagery of tennis, but it's not really about the sport at all. It's a way of saying that it's someone else's turn to take action or make a decision.
So like if you're working on a project together.
Exactly. If you've done your part.
You could say, okay, I'm finished. The ball is in your court now.
Exactly. So it's about responsibility shifting from one person to another.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. It's a good one. All right, the next one though, bite the bullet.
Oh, this one's interesting.
Yeah, like are we actually talking about bullets here? What's going on?
Well, it does have a historical connection to actual bullets. Back in the day, before they had proper anesthesia, if someone needed surgery, like on a battlefield,
Oh no.
they would literally give them a bullet to bite on
Oh gosh.
to help them deal with the pain.
Oh wow.
But nowadays, it means to face a difficult situation head on, even if it's unpleasant.
So like if there's something you've been putting off for ages, something you really don't want to do,
I know those all too well.
you just got to bite the bullet and get it done.
Exactly. Just do it.
Okay, here's one I hear a lot. Break the ice. Now this one always seems to come up in social situations.
Yes. It's all about making people feel more comfortable, especially when they first meet.
Right. It's like when you're at a party and everyone's a little bit awkward.
Yeah, like how do we start talking to each other? What do we say?
Yeah. So if I like go up to someone and start chatting about the food,
You got it.
I'm breaking the ice.
You are. You're creating that opening for conversation, easing that initial tension.
All right, next one. Burn the midnight oil. I think a lot of our listeners
yeah.
will be familiar with this one.
Definitely.
Especially if you're a student or if you have deadlines to meet.
It's a classic.
It means staying up late, working, or studying. Right.
Yeah. Usually burning the midnight oil involves some serious effort. It's not just about staying up late to watch a movie.
Yeah, there's a sense of like real dedication. Like you're willing to sacrifice sleep to get the job done.
Yeah.
Okay, this next idiom is a good one. I like this one. Hit the nail on the head.
Oh, that's a great one. It's like a verbal high five.
Yeah. Like when someone says something that is just absolutely spot on.
Perfectly expresses an idea or captures a situation.
We've hit the nail right on the head.
Exactly.
Okay, now this next one. I gotta say, this one always makes me smile. Let the cat out of the bag.
I know. It's such a funny image, right?
It is. But it's not really about cats, is it?
Not at all. It means to accidentally reveal a secret. Something that was supposed to be hidden is now out in the open.
So it's like you're planning a surprise party and then
Oh
someone spills the beans.
no, the cat's out of the bag.
Exactly.
Okay, this next one's a little bit more subtle. Under the weather.
Mm.
Is this literally about bad weather?
Not quite. It just means you're feeling a bit sick, not seriously ill, just a little bit off.
So like if you have a cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just feeling a little run down.
You might say, I'm feeling a bit under the weather today.
Okay, now this one sounds similar to let the cat out of the bag. Spill the beans.
Okay, so they both involve revealing secrets.
Yeah.
But with spill the beans, it's often more intentional.
So someone's like, come on, spill the beans. Tell me what's going on.
Exactly. You're trying to get someone to reveal information.
Okay, so Jack brings up a really good question here, and I think it's something a lot of people wonder about. How do you actually start using these idioms naturally in conversations?
Well, I think the key is to not overthink it.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Start by noticing how native speakers use them. Listen to how people talk in movies, TV shows, even songs.
So it's about like getting familiar with the sound of these idioms.
Exactly. The more you hear them, the more natural they will become.
And don't be afraid to try them out yourself.
Absolutely.
All right. So those are 10 common idioms that can really spice up your English conversations.
They add so much personality and color to the language.
But we're just getting started. Up next, we're tackling those tricky phrasal verbs.
Get ready to be challenged.
Because those can be a real headache.
That's for sure.
All right, so we've survived idioms. But now we got to face another challenge. Those dreaded phrasal verbs.
Oh, yeah. Those could be tough.
Jack actually calls them a maze of multiple meanings in our source material. And I got to say,
I did it.
It's a pretty accurate description.
It really is. You've got one verb, you add a little preposition, and suddenly...
The meaning is completely different.
I was like, where did that meaning come from?
Yeah, so where do we even start with these things? Do we just have to memorize like a million different combinations?
Well, I think a better approach is to understand the logic behind them. Phrasal verbs. They tell a story, right? They paint a picture in your mind.
So it's not just about the individual words, but like the image they create together.
Exactly. Like give up. It's not always about quitting.
Right.
It can also mean to stop looking for something. Like, I gave up trying to find my phone. It's lost forever.
Okay, that makes sense. What about run into? Does that always mean like bumping into someone?
Well, it can. But it can also mean to meet someone unexpectedly.
Oh, so like if you see an old friend at the grocery store.
Yep. That's running into them.
Okay, I like this. This is making more sense already. What about look forward to?
This one's all about anticipation.
Right, like you're excited about something that's going to happen in the future.
Exactly. Like a vacation or a concert or maybe even just the weekend.
Okay. Now, this next one, I think we've all been guilty of this at some point. Put off.
Oh, yeah. This one's all too familiar.
It means to delay something, right? Usually something you don't want to do.
Exactly, like studying for an exam or cleaning the bathroom.
Like the king of procrastination.
Definitely. And then there's turn down. This one can be a little tricky.
Oh, yeah, because it can have a few different meanings, right?
Yeah, you can turn down the volume on the TV.
Right.
You can turn down an invitation.
Oh, and like turning down the bed sheets.
Exactly. So the context is really important.
All right, what about bring up? Yeah, I feel like this one's all about starting a conversation.
You got it. It means to introduce a topic.
Yeah.
To talk about something.
So if something's bothering you.
You could bring it up with a friend.
Or like in a meeting if you want to discuss a certain issue.
Exactly.
And Jack makes a really good point about phrasal verbs. He says, once you start noticing them, they're everywhere.
It's true. You can't escape them.
It's like they're hiding in plain sight.
And once you start understanding them, your English just sounds so much more natural.
Right. It's like you're in the club, you know, the secret handshake.
Exactly.
All right, we've decoded some of those tricky phrasal verbs.
Yeah.
But now it's time to cross the pond and see how things are done on the other side of the Atlantic.
Ooh, this is where things get really interesting.
Because we're diving into the world of American versus British slang.
Get ready for some linguistic fireworks.
Okay, so we've made it through idioms and phrasal verbs. But now it's time for something a little more fun.
I agree. This is my favorite part.
Right. It's time to cross the pond and explore the wonderful world of American versus British slang.
And as Jack points out, it's amazing how just a few different words can make you sound like you're from a completely different country.
Yeah, like you're speaking a secret language.
It's true. So, let's dive in. What are some of the slang words that Jack and Emma talk about?
Well, one that comes up right away is cheers. Now, in the U.S., we usually just use this when we're toasting with drinks.
Right. But in the UK, it's way more versatile.
Yeah, you can use it to say thank you.
Or even goodbye.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a catch-all phrase for all sorts of situations.
Huh, interesting. Okay, what about apartment versus flat?
Oh, this is a classic one.
In the U.S., we live in apartments. But in the UK, they live in flats.
And it's not just the word that's different, right? There's like a whole different feel to them.
Yeah, like an apartment sounds kind of modern and fancy.
While a flat sounds more cozy and homey.
I wonder if that has to do with the types of buildings they have in each place.
Yeah, maybe. It's funny how a simple word can conjure up such different images.
It really is. Okay, here's another one. Americans go on vacations.
And Brits go on holidays.
Now, to me, holiday sounds like it could be any kind of time off from work.
Whereas vacation sounds more like you're going somewhere specific.
Yeah, like a trip to the beach or something.
Exactly. All right, how about this one? Americans take the elevator.
And the British take the lift.
I've always loved that one. It's like they're from different centuries.
Right, like lift sounds so old-fashioned.
It does, but it's still the word they use.
Okay, prepare yourself for this next one. In the UK, chips are what we call French fries.
I know. It can be so confusing.
Because what we call chips, they call crisps.
It's like they swap the words on purpose to mess with us.
I know, right? It's a classic case of lost in translation, even though we're technically speaking the same language.
And Jack makes a great point that sometimes there are slang words that are just completely different in American and British English.
Yeah, like if someone in the UK says they're knackered,
It means they're exhausted.
totally wiped out.
Yeah, but we would never say that in the US.
We'd probably say something like, I'm beat.
Or I'm dead tired.
And then there's dodgy in the UK.
Which means something suspicious or untrustworthy.
We'd probably say sketchy in the US.
Right. So fascinating how there are so many different ways to say the same thing.
And Emma gives some great advice to English learners who want to sound more natural. She says to use contractions.
Oh, definitely, like can't instead of cannot.
And I'm instead of I am.
It makes your English flow so much better.
And it makes you sound less robotic.
Totally. And she also says to use informal vocabulary.
Like awesome instead of very good.
Or no worries instead of you're welcome.
Right. It's all about finding that balance between being clear and being casual.
Exactly. You want to sound natural and authentic, but you also want to be understood.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into everyday English.
It's been a wild ride.
We've tackled idioms, phrasal verbs, and even crossed the pond to explore the differences between American and British slang.
It just goes to show that there's always something new to learn about this language.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun with it.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll be speaking fluent English like a native.
And teaching everyone else the secrets of everyday conversation.
That would be awesome.
Until next time.